All right, artists and educators, welcome. In this masterclass, we are going to get right into the science of something we deal with every single day: why permanent makeup fades. And look, understanding this isn't just some boring theory. It's the absolute key to getting predictable results and, honestly, to sounding like the expert you are when you talk to your clients. So, let's just jump right in with the million-dollar question. The one every client asks, right? When those beautiful brows or that perfect lip blush starts to fade, where does the pigment actually go? I mean, it doesn't just vanish into thin air. The answer is pretty amazing, and it's all happening inside our own bodies.
You see, the very second your needle puts that pigment into the dermis, your client's body sounds the alarm. It's like a high-tech security system. It sees those pigment particles as foreign invaders, and from that exact moment, it kicks off this incredibly sophisticated mission to get them out.
Okay, so this first wave of defense has a name. It's called phagocytosis. Think of it like the body's elite special forces, the cleanup crew that gets sent in immediately to deal with what it thinks is an invasion. Let's take a look at who these defenders are and exactly what they're doing.
Now, this is where it gets super interesting. These defenders are called macrophage cells, and they're kind of like double agents here. When they show up, their job is to eat up anything that's not supposed to be there. So they gobble up all the tiny little pigment particles, getting them ready for removal. But the bigger particles are just too large for them to swallow. So what do? They just surround them. They trap them. And that right there is how the very system trying to remove the pigment is also responsible for locking it in place to create the design your client loves. Pretty cool, right?
So, what happens to all those little particles that the macrophages manage to eat? Well, they have to go somewhere. The body has this super efficient disposal network, and the main highway for getting rid of this kind of stuff is the lymphatic system.
Okay, let's follow the journey. The macrophage, carrying its little piece of pigment, travels over to the nearest lymph node. From there, these tiny microparticles get released into the bloodstream. And that's when the body's master filters, the liver and the kidneys, they just go to work, pulling these particles out of the system. Then, they're just expelled naturally. It's this constant, quiet cleanup operation happening 24/7.
All right, that covers the body's immediate reaction, but what about the slow fade? The one that happens over months, even years? Well, that's not just the immune system anymore. There are a couple of other major forces at play, always, patiently, wearing away at your beautiful work.
So on one side, you have the skin's own natural cycle. As skin cells are constantly regenerating, even deep down, the pigment that's closest to the surface gets slowly pushed up and out. It's a very gradual process. But then, you have UV exposure. Sunlight is a game changer here. It literally acts like a tiny hammer, smashing those big, trapped pigment particles and breaking them down. And what happens when they're broken into smaller pieces? Yep, you guessed it. Our buddies the macrophages can finally grab them and start that whole removal process all over again. This is exactly why sun protection is absolutely non-negotiable for making your work last.
Okay, so here's the bottom line. This entire process, from the first immune response to the long-term breakdown from the sun, happens a little differently in every single client. As a master artist, as an educator, knowing these variables is what makes the difference between good work and truly great, predictable work. Let's break down the big ones.
First, and this is so important, it's about the pigment itself. PMU pigments are designed this way on purpose. The particles are much smaller, finer, making it easier for the body to break them down and clear them out over time. Traditional tattoo ink, totally different story. It's made with bigger, coarser particles that are designed to fight off the immune system for decades. We are literally designing for a beautiful, graceful fade over a few years, not a lifetime sentence.
And here are the 3 big things you have to consider for each client. First, their metabolism. A younger client, someone with a really strong immune system, is just going to process that pigment faster. Second, your technique is everything. If you go too deep down into the fatty layer, the macrophages can't really get to the pigment and it just gets stuck down there, often turning that ashy, cool color we all hate. And of course, lifestyle. If your client is a sun worshiper, they're going to need a touch-up a lot sooner. These are the conversations that build real trust.
Now let's flip this around for a second. Let's use what we just learned to get a real professional edge by understanding removal. Because when we know how the body naturally gets rid of pigment, we can understand how we can help it do its job.
Remember what we said sunlight does? Well, laser removal is the same idea, just on hyperspeed. A laser doesn't magically make the ink disappear. Nope. All it does is blast those big trapped pigment particles into a fine dust.
It does the heavy lifting that the macrophages couldn't do on their own. And once that pigment is pulverized, the body's natural cleanup crew finally swoops in, grabs all that dust, and carries it out through the lymphatic system. See? We're not really removing the pigment, we're just helping the body finish the job it started from day one.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that everything you do, from the pigment you choose to the depth of your needle, is a partnership with your client's body. Understanding this science, it's not just extra credit, it is your #1 tool for mastering your art, for educating your clients with confidence, and for creating results that aren't just beautiful, but are perfectly, predictably beautiful.